The afterlife. I use the term afterlife in its broadest possible sense. When I was young in the 1960s, the future looked great. Science was in the ascendancy, man had reached the moon, we had all manner of new materials and technology, and there were great advances in the medical sciences and the elimination of diseases. We were the generation who were going to live forever. Then it all went wrong, and we now desperately need a backup plan. A plan which not only ensures our own survival, but hopefully includes meeting up with friends and family, and, most importantly for me, our pets who give us as much love as any human can. So what are the chances of coming up with such a plan? Or is it all just wishful thinking? The following is a very brief account of my research and attempts to find an answer. To begin with, I will discuss two aspects which are not of a religious nature in themselves, but are still quite definitely connected with the idea of an afterlife. If the afterlife does exist in the religious sense, these things are still true. It is not an either-or situation. Time. The thing about time is that it does not exist, or to be precise, the passage of time does not exist. It is an illusion. This may sound like a rather stupid statement when we can look up and see a clock with its hands going round and round. Of course time is passing. But think of your own experiences of clock watching. When you are bored and waiting for home time, you look at the clock every 5 minutes and it seems an eternity. When you're interested in something, an hour goes by in no time at all. The reason is that it is our own personal consciousness which is moving forward, not the events themselves that have disappeared into the past. We look up into the night sky and we are looking into the past. The light takes years to reach us from a particular star, and so we are seeing that star as it was when the light was given off, not as it is now. With some stars and galaxies, we can be looking back thousands or millions of years. Time is just a dimension, like the other three, but with one important difference. We can move back and forth at will along any of the first three dimensions, but with time, we can only move in the one direction, and that is forward. If anyone ever invents a real time machine, I will of course be proved wrong. I will not attempt to go into relativity theory, but this gives a scientific explanation of some of the above, and much more of course. The point of all this is that everyone at all times always regards themselves as being in the present, of being modern, that the time is now. This is what is meant by the expression the eternal now. It is only from our particular viewpoint that we see them as being in the past. Try this for an exercise. Sit quietly and concentrate on what you experience now. Every sight, sound and smell. Think of nothing else but what is now. Do the same tomorrow, and then remember the first time you did the exercise. Is there any difference between the two actual experiences of it being now? No, that experience of it being now is universal for everyone throughout the whole of time. So what is the point of this in relation to an afterlife? Only this: if someone has died and we are wondering if we will ever meet them again, it may be a misconception, because they are where we have left them, where they have always been. It is simply that we, in our conscious thoughts, have moved forward into what to them is the future. On our deaths, we will also be in what people still living will call the past. We will have joined our loved ones, both physically and in our thoughts, in the past. To use an analogy, I recently saw a film of an archaeological dig on the battlefields of the First World War. An underground bunker had been discovered, sealed off since 1918, and still containing the equipment and personal possessions of the men who had lived down there. Armies had again passed overhead in 1939, and again in 1945, all unaware that beneath their feet, in the peace and quiet, it was still 1918. Consider now an old school photo, the type with all the class on. We see all the faces of our friends and remember them as they were then. If they passed us in the street now, perhaps we would not recognise them. Some will have done well in life, others not so. Some may even be dead, and we do not know who. Some day all will be dead, including ourselves. But think, the sun still shines on those happy carefree children of long ago, and we are among them, and always will be. Another thought. We always assume that there is only one present, and that is ours, because there is no possible way we could know otherwise. But suppose there was another one following on, or perhaps many, with versions of ourselves doing the same thing in the same place, but perhaps doing things differently and better. It is just a thought. I will discuss more ideas related to time under the separate headings of Friedrich Nietzsche and J.W. Dunn.